All right, Pasadenans and heroes everywhere. It is I, your friendly neighborhood Rabbi John Carrier. Today we are here with PJTC's RabbiChat, where you can ask me anything you like about Judaism, about Jewish thought, Jewish culture, Jewish people, Jewish recipes. And today I'm going to ask you the question, what are some new hobbies you may have developed, some pastimes? How are you and your roommates, whether you are related to them or not, staying sane while you are staying safe? So stick around. I'll give you some of my tips and tricks and some new skills that I have acquired lately. And I also want to make room for whatever questions you have for me. And we'll do that right after this brief musical interlude. Turn the music down a little bit. You might be able to hear it in the background, a little bossa nova beats. I got some bossa nova in there, some klezmer when I can get it, and really delighted to learn with you today. I'm Rabbi John Carrier of Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. I'm here twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time-ish. So always usually get caught by surprise. Oh, it's time to live stream. Let's go do that. I was in the middle of writing an email that is very important to me. I want to make sure everybody in the Pasadena community knows about a very important social hall event that we're having tonight. And you may say, social hall, isn't everybody supposed to stay safe at home? Don't you have safe at home in the title of this video? In fact, we have something we're calling social hall. It used to be called a town hall. Right after this whole thing started with COVID-19 and the novel coronavirus pandemic and the safer at home orders, which meant that we closed the physical doors to our synagogue, but we were challenged to make sure we were letting all the information out there about what we were doing to stay safe, about how we wanted to help our community stay safe, and also just have a way for people to talk to each other, to ask questions, check in, request groceries. I mean, right as all this stuff was happening, there was shortages on the shelves of stuff that we take for granted. Toilet paper, paper towels, toilet paper, pasta. You couldn't find pasta. All you could get was like the gluten-free pasta. And I'm not knocking it, if that's your thing. But it was just like, panic control situation. But what we realized, what we were missing, perhaps more than toilet paper, if that's possible, was just connecting with each other socially. So we started calling it the social hall, and it's this thing we do on Zoom every Thursday night. I think you have to be a PJTC member to get access to it. But if you're out there and you want to get access to it, ping me on Facebook Messenger. Just look for me, John Carrier, on Facebook Messenger, Rabbi John Carrier, or through the PJTC commentation. However you want to let me know. Let's connect. I'll give you the link to it. So when we started doing these things, we called them, they were town halls. We called them social hall because we missed hanging out in the social hall, frankly, at the temple. And so we thought we're going to have social hall every Thursday night, only it's going to be on Zoom. We could still check in with each other, see each other's faces, check in, see how everybody's doing. But we also wanted to add kind of a topic to it. One thing that's always been true at PJTC is that our social hall is not just a place of schmoozing, but also a place of real dialogue and real learning. So we wanted to bring a learning and dialogue component to it. And so we've had some wonderful presentations. We had a presentation from Trudy Strobel, who is an artisan in our community, who's also a Holocaust survivor. We had a presentation by a member of our community who is an epidemiologist, right? Kind of interesting topic right now, epidemiology. And so she volunteered to lead a session on that. We've had all sorts of great stuff. Right now, we're doing something especially cool, especially important. Our Social Justice Committee, which is one of the most, active, vibrant, busy emailing groups in our community, rightly so, has been doing a 3-part series on racism. The first part was kind of a dialogue on kind of just checking in, where are you at, how to understand what's going on right now. Tonight's session is on the roots of racism in America. And then next week's session is on, okay, where do we go from here? What can we do about it? How can we be a partner? How can we be an ally? How can we fight the anti-racist fight? And so this wonderful 3-part series is happening. Tonight is part 2. If you're a member of PJTC, you get our emails. You're going to get an email today. Our weekly roundup of stuff. There's going to be the link in there. I'm working on sending out an extra email so that make sure people have access to this event tonight. If you're not a PJTC member, but I know you and you're a trustworthy person and not a Zoom bomber, ping me and I'll make sure that you have access to it as well. So that's what's going on tonight at the PJTC community. Super important topic. Want to make sure you understand that if you didn't make it to, it's a 3-part thing. So you might think, oh, I missed the first one. You know, it's not for me. I'm going to be behind. The first session was important, but you don't have to have gone to the first session to get a lot out of tonight's discussion. I firmly believe that. So if you're interested in tonight's topic of the sources of racism in America, how we got to where we are, that's going to be happening. Please show up to that. I think it's a super important topic right now. It's a super important topic anytime. Right now, we're really focused on it, and folks at PJTC are doing some great work. So that's my spiel. That's my pitch for tonight. That's a thing that you can do. Right now, I want to have a little bit of fun. I want to talk about what kind of activities you have taken up since the beginning of this pandemic. You know, a lot of people, maybe not everybody who's watching this, but a lot of people, especially in Southern California, around the country, in other countries as well, have experienced periods of being locked down at home. And some I've noticed and experienced, some people have taken up some new hobbies and things like that. So I'm curious to hear what's been going on in your life. So just want to check something on the wires here real quick. We see Natalie Serrata is in the house. Nice to see you. Trig Bell as well. And Natalie says, hi, Vit. Let's see, I'm getting pinged here. Sometimes that means my volume doesn't work. Oh, no, it's just my farm box. That's one thing that we've taken up since this whole thing started, is we signed up for a CSA. I think it's called a community, I don't know what that stands for. It's basically a farm share, where it's a cooperative of local farms get together and, you know, box up their produce, and then people who are not farmers, I dress like one, I talk like one sometimes, but I am not a farmer. People who are not farmers who appreciate good local organic produce can sign up for this program where you actually, you know, you pay a fee and you actually own a share of the produce that comes out of these farms. And so every week we get a new box and we have no idea what's going to be in it. You know, it's just like vegetable roulette, if you will. And so every week we get I mean, they send us an email that day, like, here's what's coming in your box and here's some fun recipes you can try. But every week we get a box of fresh, local, organic produce. And then we have 2 challenges. One is try to eat the whole box before it goes bad. There was a great episode of The Simpsons. I don't want to break Disney copyright here, but by just describing it, where the Simpsons went to Whole Foods and they got all this organic produce, and by the time it got to the second they paid for it, it immediately started to wilt, like before they even got in the bag. So, challenge number 1 with a farm share box: eat the whole thing before it goes bad. Challenge number 2 is figure out what to do with all this arugula. Right? You don't know what you're going to get when it's arugula season. Like when arugula is in season, you get a ton of arugula. You may feel like corn, you may feel like potatoes, but if they're not in season yet, tough, arugula. Did you know that you can make pesto out of arugula? Thanks to the farm share, I also know you can make pesto out of the green stuff at the top of carrots. You can make pesto out of just about anything, apparently, as long as it's edible and not poisonous. So, That's one thing we're doing. Oh, Trig Bell asked, what time is this thing tonight? It's at 7:30 p.m. On that's our Pacific time, I believe, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. So check that out. That's our social hall discussion of racism tonight. Tammy Lynn Garrison says, hello, I've been learning about Judaism since the stay at home order started. It's been my hobby. Not a bad one. I highly commend you for that. I'd say I'd probably be learning about Judaism as a hobby if it weren't my full-time job. So I'm not knocking it. It's cool. But I've had different hobbies when I'm not doing learning about Judaism. Karen this is a tongue twister. I just went on a long walk with my dog, and I'm a little bit dehydrated right now. Karen J.G. Wilcox says, I'm working on my backgammon game. Not too shabby. Here in Los Angeles, we have a large, let's say, Iranian diaspora community, and you can often see the old men in parks playing what they call sheshbesh, which is backgammon, I think, in Farsi. So a lot of backgammon fans here in Los Angeles. Trig Bell says, I'm still studying my Hebrew while never ending. That's true. You may never get to the end of that. Karen says, community supported agriculture. Thank you for that. That's what CSA stands for. A buddy of mine from high school, and we were chatting about concerns about what the future might hold and the infrastructure around food in America, and whether that would be maintained at levels we've come to expect over the last several decades. And we started talking about canning and preserving and things like that. And he says, oh, I may start canning when my farm share box gets here. And I said, farm share box? So I ordered the farm share box. I've also done a little bit of canning. I'm not going to lie to you. Got some mason jars full of chili over in that cabinet. So really glad to hear about this stuff. What else have I taken? I've taken up gardening. I have a little garden on my balcony over there. We live in a kind of an urban setting in a 2-bedroom apartment. Not a lot of green space, but we do have a balcony with partial sun. And we've got a couple of citrus trees a couple of dwarf potted citrus trees in the brightest part of the balcony, and they've started to, one of them has some fruits, looks like, got some mandarin oranges the size of a grape growing out there. The lime tree has not done so well with the limes, but it's letting some branches out, which has been nice, into the sunnier parts. Kay Dixie says, good on you, students of Hebrew. Amen. Get some other vegetables out there. My kids did something cute for Father's Day. They lacquered and painted rocks and put little pictures of vegetables and the names of the vegetables so that I could put them in the areas of my garden where those vegetables were growing, so I'd know what was out there. It was a nice gift. What else is going on? What are people doing in this time? Are there particular subjects you've delved into? Some people are learning about Judaism. Some people are learning about Hebrew. Like I said, I'm getting into my agricultural roots. I'm channeling my inner mama when it comes to doing some gardening and canning and things like that. I've also taken up dog husbandry, I guess. We're not married yet or anything. No, it's not even joking about that. But it's certainly a relationship. We've gotten a puppy since then. Trig says it's finally hot here, so I'm loving it outside. It's nice to get outside. I tell you what, if I didn't walk a dog 7 times a day, I'd be getting outside 8 times a day, I think. So it's nice to be able to get outside when you can. We live across the street from a big park with a lot of green space, a lot of wide open space where we can get out there at safe physical distances and still enjoy the sunshine. And they've opened up the swimming pool in our building, which has been helpful. So what else are people learning out there? I'm trying to think what else. Oh, yes. I also asked the question, how are you keeping it sane with your roommates? And I said that intentionally because not everybody has kids. Not everybody has a partner that they live with, but a lot of people have roommates. And sometimes your roommate is somebody you're married to. Sometimes your roommate's somebody you're no longer married to. I've heard of that situation. Sometimes your roommates are your kids. Sometimes they're your friends. Sometimes they're your grandchildren. Sometimes they're your grandparents. If you have people in your home, that adds a good thing. At least you have some people you can be social with, but it also adds a layer of complexity around getting on each other's nerves. So some people have taken up group activities to help smooth that tension. And I say that just to share. I'm going to go flip back to the camera so I can make sure I get this whole thing. Oh, this is our adventure for this evening. What do we got here? The Dungeons and Dragons. There's a dragon. He's probably in a dungeon. Starter set. So this is something I'm excited about. Ordered this on Amazon, and hopefully doing this with my kids and my wife and myself tonight-ish. Maybe certainly by Sunday. We're gonna dig into the Dungeons and Dragons starter set. I've heard good things. It was not something I was into when I was a kid. I take that back. I was super into it. Could never find anybody to play with. I loved all the books. I loved all the stories. Never really took part in the game. And it's made a comeback, apparently. I've heard. I've actually heard from a guy I work out with at the gym. He's like super into Dungeons and Dragons. He's like, your kids are going to love this. And did I say work out at the gym? Now we work out together on Skype. That's another thing we've been doing to stay sane is keeping our exercise up. But super excited about the Dungeons and Dragons starter set. I get no money from the Dungeons and Dragons people on this. Just something I can't wait to dig into. Just to help keep our imaginations going. Just something that we can do together as a family. We've been playing Settlers of Catan, but sometimes you just need that game to be 2 or 3 hours longer, and that's what Dungeons and Dragons is for. So those are some things that we've taken up. Certainly have been studying. Well, I won't say I've been studying more Torah because it's kind of my gig. I've been studying Torah differently. Been studying Torah with the eye of, okay, what have our ancestors gone through that has been tough, and how have they gotten through it? I'll say my attention has been drawn more to stories of resiliency, stories of personal growth, stories of working through hard times and hard problems. And usually that goes best when you work through them together. So that's why I've really appreciated this community going still and strong. Let's see what else is going on in the chat. Trigbell says, Big Bang Theory, Leonard or Sheldon. I don't know, probably more of a, I don't know, sometimes I'm a Sheldon, sometimes I'm a Leonard. Daf Yomi, doing Daf Yomi. I'd actually highly considered doing Daf Yomi. Was into it for a while, and I get sort of in and out of it. I really wanted to do Daf Yomi, and then I'll say life got a little bit more complicated than I was expecting it to. And so I've kind of fallen off of Daf Yomi. I've actually been doing more, I'll say rabbinic work is still the same. You're still teaching Torah, you're still showing up for people, but we've had additional burdens on time of learning to do it a different way. We discovered this at the synagogue office where, we were doing our job that we were used to, and then we were doing another job on top of that, like another layer of behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to do it in a new environment with new tools. And in some ways overcompensating for the lack of distance that we had. So that's kept me pretty busy. Let's see. Gigi Italia says chess, lots of chesh. Chesh. Did I say chesh? I was thinking of sheshbesh earlier. Or shach is the word for check. As I learned this one time, I got hustled in chess by a 104-year-old Hungarian man in a rest home in Jerusalem, but that's a story for another time. So people doing Daf Yomi, people doing chess, lots of chess, backgammon, board games. Like I say, Settlers of Catan is popular around here. Always looking for more brick, never get enough brick in Settlers of Catan. Dorian says, I've never been big on D&D, but I'm very familiar with much of its literary source material, like The Lord of the Rings. That's what I figured, is that my kids are especially, my one daughter especially, is into lots of fantasy literature. We've listened to The Lord of the Rings, most of it in the car as an audiobook, and seen all the movies, and has been big into fantasy novels with elves and dwarves and stuff like that. And so I thought, well, let's make it a little interesting. Let's see if we can inhabit that world in a more imaginative way. So that's been the thought behind Dungeons and Dragons. Plus, there's math. Can't go wrong with that. Really enjoyed talking with you all today. Loving hearing these ideas. How are you staying? How are you staying sane? How are you staying sane with your roommates, whether they are your spouse, children, parents, grandparents, grandchildren, folks you met on Craigslist, however that works out. It's a challenge being together in a place without a lot of other places you can go without those people. So, we've been thinking a lot about our living situation. Do we need a place that's bigger? Do we need to save up for a bigger place still? So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, we have gotten to know each other a lot better than I think we were able to in our workaday lives. And we've done more activities together as a family, which has been a real blessing. So, let's see. Trigbell says the dog is certainly sick of me. That's your dog can't wait for you to get home until you're home all the time. So I think the dog is sick of me right now. We took a jog this morning and then about an hour-long walk this afternoon, and she's pretty beat. She's a tired puppo. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up our discussion for today. We talked about some Torah on Tuesday. If you want to hear about the Parshat HaShavua, look for our Tuesday video. Today, I just wanted to kind of hang out socially, talk about how we're getting through this time together, and maybe recommend a little bit of D&D. If once I figure out how to do this, maybe we can get a D&D game going on this show. Wouldn't that be something? I think I have to play the cleric for what it's worth. I have to play like the level 3 rabbi with, I don't know, page number calling power, something like that. Roll 20, and then you call the psalm on page 20, I suppose. So thank you all for hanging out with me today. If you want to keep hanging out in a social way, I highly recommend the social hall that's happening through PJTC tonight. Look for your emails from PJTC. If you don't get those emails, ping me, and maybe there's something I can do to help you get into that room, as long as you promise not to bomb it. That's a thing that, thank God, hasn't happened to us yet. So Trig says, take care, everyone, stay healthy, and keep on loving. I couldn't have said it better myself. Take care, everyone, stay healthy, keep on loving, and until next time, Pasadenans and heroes everywhere, peace.